What'd you get, a big dually thing?
I just abstained.
No Boy Scouts for you, Chairman.
Thank you.
No Boy Scouts? I'll handle the pledge.
Yeah.
And Randy, you want?
Thank you.
You want the prayer, or you want Dawson?
Let's give it to Mr. Dawson.
All right.
Huh?
I don't know, these things are, I don't have a
Charles
problem with
Crowder
it.
passed away. I love him. Yeah, I love him. Great artist.
Waiting on the TV.
TV's there.
Huh?
TV's on.
Mine's not on.
You're on TV.
Okay. None of the ones up here. Y'all got anything up there?
We don't have any video up here
The
on the
monitor
podium.
must not be on. Mine's on.
Let's go. Please come to order for the June 21st regular meeting of the Ascension Parish Council. Please stand for the opening prayer, be led by Mr. Ken Dawson and followed by the pledge.
Let's pray. Father, your grace is always sufficient to provide all of our needs, and that we give you thanks. We also thank you for the grace that you've given us to do the business of Ascension Parish and to support the efforts, oh God, that will make this parish even greater. We also pray that as we come into this hurricane season, that the preparation that's been put forth by this body, by the administration, and by OEP director will be available to handle any situation, but we also pray that it will be a very calm season, so it will not even be necessary. As we do the people business tonight, we ask for your grace and your mercy and your wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We got Mr. Cagnolati not here, Ms. Casso, and Mr. Turner. There are no chair additions for tonight's meeting. A public comment sign-in period. If you'd like to comment on an item, please come to the podium, pick up a red or a green card, turn that in to Ms. McKee, and be allowed 3 minutes to comment before the item. The parish presence report, Mr. Ken Dawson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have a report or update on Civic Source, which is who we engaged to handle our adjudicated property. I don't know if they're here yet. She's here? Okay, so I'm going to ask Allison to come up and give a presentation. We just want to give you an update on where we stand now with the adjudicated properties and some updates. Thank you, Allison.
Yes, my name is Allison Kelly. I am the Civic Source Account Manager for Ascension Parish. And first, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here today. I just want to give y'all a brief update on the adjudicated properties within your parish. We partnered with the parish in September of last year, and we did that to help get these tax delinquent properties back into commerce and to also help allow your residents have an affordable investment opportunities. And in March of this year, we listed 63 properties on our site. Since then, 20 of them have received deposits, which means that person is interested in seeing that property go to sale. Out of those 20 deposits, 10 were adjoining landowners, and this allows your residents that own an adjoining property to that adjudicated property and have been maintaining it for at least a year to purchase it without it going to public auction. Ascension's first auction is going to be July 11th of this year. There's 3 properties in that sale. There's also 4 properties scheduled in our September auction and 3 in August. And also, I wanted to announce the information session that we're going to be holding here on June 26th of next week. It's going to be at the Governmental Complex at 615 East Worthy Street. It's free and open to the public to attend. We're going to have a member of our Investor Relations Department as well as one of our attorneys present. And we just want to come and answer any questions they may have and let them feel comfortable with our process. And those will be recurrent. We try to hold them a few times a year to help people come and just get more comfortable with our process. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Real quick.
Mr. Cluott.
Also, I want to thank you for working with the area that I'm in. And I know what you got in front of you. We appreciate it.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your attention to detail and your compassion toward the landowners and their efforts and the
Thank you.
community to get things cleaned up.
Thank you.
Quick.
Mr. Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. A couple of questions. So the first auction is July 11th, you said, with 3 properties and some thereafter.
Yes, sir.
Will this be advertised on AscensionParish.net, Mr. Chairman?
I'm not sure. Mr. Dawson.
Yes, it is being advertised, and also, we also have it on Channel 21, where that was an interview that was held with Allison and one of her associates, and it went through great detail on the process.
Great.
Okay.
Yes, and we also advertise in the local paper.
Excellent. That's absolutely excellent. So, and the next question, 63 listed, you said 20 with deposits. What is the meaning of the residual 43? What's happening there? And
Those are still public on our site. So if you log into civicsource.com, you can see all those properties, and anyone at any time can go in.
so the only meaning is that no one's expressed a date.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that we won't get them.
Right. They still could go to sale, just not at this time.
Is it typical, I've followed your site in other parishes, for example, in St. Tammany, is it typical, is this correct, that people tend to place deposits almost at the last minute as opposed to, let's say you list a new potential property today, and I don't know how long it's listed before you get actually to the auction date. I should know that, but I can't remember.
That's okay. So once a deposit is placed, it's usually 90 to 120 days till the auction. And that's because we do a thorough legal research process. Then we send out interested party notices.
No, but I'm talking about the front end. It's wide open for them to place a deposit at any time, not once it's placed. Like, let's say you advertising that here's a property available, it's adjudicated. That's just wide open until someone puts a deposit,
Yes.
time-wise.
Oh, yeah. It will just sit on our site basically forever until someone puts that deposit down,
Got it.
and that initiates it. to
That's
go
what I was
to sale.
after. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
One quick.
Todd. Mr. Lambert.
And on your site, all the homes are listed with addresses to see which ones are getting adjudicated?
If the tax assessor has an address listed on the tax roll, we will have an address listed.
Okay,
We get our data from the assessor.
I got you. Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
information. Mr. Dawson, anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, item number 6, the consent agenda. Ms. McKee.
Roads for acceptance into the parish maintenance system, Myrtle Grove Townhomes, Natchez Court, 414 feet, Galvez Trails subdivision, Galvez Trails Boulevard, 725 feet, Fort St. John Street, 368 feet, Fort Jackson Street, 203 feet. Authorization for Michael J. Enlow, Assistant DPW Director, to execute any and all documents related to right-of-way acquisition for the Move Ascension program, with the exception of the sale documents and administrative settlements exceeding 10% above fair market value as established by an appraisal report. Change order number 1, balancing change order for ENG 018012, 2018 asphalt overlay and reconstruction task 1. Substantial completion for 2018 asphalt overlay and reconstruction task 1.
Okay, is there any desire to remove any item from the consent agenda? Mr. Sadler.
6A.
6A, okay, we'll consider that separately. We will.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
on
Lambert.
6B, it don't have to be moved, but I'm have to abstain on that particular one.
Okay,
I don't know if you need to pull it or not.
so we'll pull that out too. We will make those E and F after the consent. Okay, so we have now only items C and D on the consent agenda.
Motion?
Motion by Councilman Cluott,
Second.
second by Councilman Lawler. Any discussion? Any opposition? C and D are adopted. Now we'll go to A, which will be E, 6E, if you're not confused by now. Roads for acceptance into the parish maintenance system, Myrtle Grove Townhomes, Natchez Court, Galvez Trail subdivision, Galvez Trails Boulevard, Fort St. John Street, Fort Jackson Street. Item E. Mr. Satterley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to object to this afternoon and henceforth be objecting to all taking of roads into the parish maintenance system until we address this. I believe it's the Transportation Committee that well over a year ago took this item, never took the item up, but talked about the potential of getting with legal and trying to develop some sort of plan going forward. I've heard nothing about that as to whether or not we want to continue to do that. I think it's important that we at least have a discussion, if not wound up deciding that maybe that's not something we want to be doing going forward, particularly in lieu of this afternoon on our agenda, of course, is the road swap system on Highway 930 coming up. I believe it's item 7 or 8 or whatever it is, where we would be taking a large state highway into our road system. So and that's why I should take it out the consent agenda. I'm going to be objecting until we take a strong look at, is that something we want to continue to be doing? As we add more and more roads to our parish maintenance system, the burden's becoming greater and greater, and I have some remarks to make about 8, so I don't want to be redundant here. We obviously don't have the money to handle that. And so I don't think it's something we need to continue to let languish, and I think that we need to address it, and we need to address it post haste. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Respect your wishes, Mr. Sadlerly, but Mr. Enlow, would you come up?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. All these roads meet the specs
Yes,
that you're proposing?
yes.
If you want to do this by district, you can. The roads that's in my district, I want to accept.
Are you making a motion to accept this, to approve this item?
Correct.
Okay. So I have a motion,
I'll second.
we have a second by Mr. Cluott to approve item E. Any discussion? We have opposition, is that correct? So, Ms. McKee, open the voting machines, please. This is for item A, which is now item E. Let's see. Mr. Cluott.
Okay.
Okay. Could you please close the voting machine? So we have that item is adopted, 7-1. Go to item F, which is item B, authorization for Michael J. Enlow, Assistant DPW Director, to execute any and all documents related to right-of-way acquisition for the Move Ascension program, with the exception of the sale documents and administrative settlements exceeding 10% above fair market value as established by an appraisal report. And we have an abstention by Mr. Todd Lambert. Please note that. We have a motion. Who was it? Councilman Cluott, second by Councilman Johnson. Discussion. Opposition.
One abstention, yeah.
One abstention. Motion is adopted. Item is adopted. And we'll move to item number 7, zoning committee recommendations. Zoning review ID PZ-1665.18. Request to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from conservation to mixed-use corridors located on the south side of LA Highway 42, approximately 100 feet east of Louisiana Highway 431. The Zoning Commission recommends approval.
Motion to accept zoning recommendation.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert to accept. Got a second by Councilman Randy Cluott. Further discussion, questions, opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none. Item is adopted. Item number 8, and I'll read the title, then we'll go in. We have some speaker cards here. Item number 8 is a resolution authorizing the parish president to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with LA DOTD for the road transfer of LA 930, LA 934, Gold Place Road only, and all state-owned frontage roads within Ascension Parish. Transportation Committee recommendation. First, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 cards that are in support, but they check the box to not speak. They're Mr. Nick Kennard, Shirley DeRosa, David Thibodeau, Joey Laborde, Donna Viator. Thank you. And our first speaker tonight we'll have in support is Jackie Bowman. Familiar lady from the Gonzales.
Good evening. My name's Jackie Bowman. I'm a resident of District 4. I live at 16319 Winding Ridge Avenue. My daughter, as well as 1,000 other kids, attend a school on 930, and they cannot walk 10 feet on the edge of the road, much less cars pass. Everyone knows that. So the three reasons I would like you all to consider the transfer: one, you're not taking the road without taking funds, so you're going to get some funding for the transfer. Two, if we wait for the state, everyone's watching the news. The state is not in any hurry, nor do they have the finances to fix the road. And three, there's a major project that's addressing parish issues all over this parish. And I feel like this is a safety concern that cannot be ignored. So if every other district's going to get lots of projects, I think that project needs to be included. And that's just all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Catherine Goppelt, and she's in opposition.
Good evening. I'm not in opposition to the fixing of the roads. I'm just in opposition to this resolution.
Okay.
Bringing in State Highway 930 and Parker Road and State Highway 934 or Gold Place Road, including all state-owned frontage roads as part of the parish system, is not a good idea. It sets a precedent. When we do not have sufficient funding to improve parish roads, how do you think taking in state roads would improve our deficit? It won't. Why have these state roads? Why these state roads and why now? Let's connect the dots. Councilwoman Casso and her relatives are selling property on State Highway 930 for Jamestown Crossing subdivision. The Planning Commission failed to follow our code that requires at least 18 feet of roadway in their May approval. Highway 930 averages 17.3 feet. Citizens of Ascension have sued and obtained a temporary injunction of Jamestown Crossing. Now the council wants to take over State Highway 930 and widen the road, in part with impact fees. Will this proposed widening project persuade the judge that Jamestown Crossing should not be permanently stopped? Councilman Todd Lambert has wisely pointed out that State Highway 30 is in Phase 2, not Phase 1 of your current road plan. Highway 30 is being bumped to the top of the list. Is there no shame? Do you think that showing preferential treatment on Highway 930 for Councilwoman Casso and her relatives will not enrage thousands of citizens who currently drive on substandard roads all over the parish? Is this not a brazen use of your public office for personal gain? The public believes it is. Your public comments about serving the people are insulting and nauseating. If this is how the sausage is made, quoting Councilwoman Casso, it is now clear why this phrase is compared to politics. It's disgusting. Corruption, any way you slice it, is distasteful. A recusal from Councilwoman Casso is not enough. She should resign her position on this council or be ready to face the wrath of voters next year. Every council member who supports this resolution should be ready as well. It was disappointing to see Councilman Kluwat's motion in the Transportation Committee to support this bad idea. What quid pro quo or promise did he receive for State Highway 934 in his district? And as for Councilman Lawler, who finds his district benefiting from the widening of Highway 930, why has he not considered placing the acquisition of state roads on the ballot? Does he know better than the voters who have already rejected this bad idea? Elitism is a slap in the face to the very people you are called to serve. If you take these roads in, it will increase our transportation deficit, more roads to fix, and never enough dollars to do the work. If you are contemplating a road tax anytime soon, don't expect the people to support it. It's a bad idea. There's a lot to lose, including elections next year. Voters are chomping at the bit. Thank you. I'd like to put these in the public record.
Ms. Kelly Fountain, and she's filled out a green card.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fountain. I live off of Henry Road, which joins 930 930 where y'all are talking about making the improvements. I'm in favor of the development, like this lady back here. My children will be future children of Prairieville Middle, which is where that school is. It's a very dangerous intersection for one as it is now. I feel like the proposed improvements will help with traffic flow through that area, through Henry Road, down 930, and also allow for safer transportation of children to school throughout the school year. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Mr. Jeff Pettit, and he's writ neutral across the top of his card.
I'm because I have questions, and there's no doubt that Highway 930 is in need of rehabilitation. Everyone agrees with that. I have a granddaughter that goes to Prairieville Primary. Well, she graduated. She'll be at Prairieville Middle next year. I'm there all the time as primary caregiver for her. But my concerns are this. On social media, 2 postings by a council member, and I'm going to leave names out. I don't want to make this personal, but questions raised. I'm going to read them to you. Guys, y'all have some legit arguments, but first, we don't want the state to fix 930 and then give it to us, because under the road transfer, all they have to do is mill and overlay. That is incorrect, per Chad Bosberg, the regional administrator, engineer for the district that Ascension Parish is in, which is what, St. James, Iberville, East and West Baton Rouge, up to the Felicianas. They do reconstruction under the road transfer program. And that was per him today on the phone. When we get the road, along with $3.8 million in right-of-way, and that's correct, and that's a huge step forward. It's a huge impediment to get the right-of-way. That's completed, no doubt about it. We will safety widen and straighten the road. Well, that was also the state's original plan with their $7.2 million that the governor redlined out of the budget. That's fact also. We all know this. But that was part of the state's original plan in the $500,000 or so they spent on design. We're changing the design a little bit to knock that price down to around $6 million, if I remember the Transportation Committee meeting. Mainly having to do with the pipeline issue where the roundabout's going to be. And saving that money is great. I applaud the Transportation Committee for doing that and putting the effort in, and our engineering department. But I question our ability as a parish to be able to maintain these roads in the future. What y'all did with Move Ascension was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We're not saddling future generations with the cost of maintaining roads that we can't maintain now. And I've heard the council state it over and over again, specifically in regards to new subdivisions. We can't keep taking these roads in without a funding mechanism in place to maintain them in the future. And I know the Transportation Committee and others, members of this council, are looking at that. But I've got one more thing. Another social media post. We only take what we want until the state gives us no choice and no compensation for taking the roads. Then we will just be given the roads in their present condition without any maintenance money. I question that. I have not seen anything come out of our legislature that says that. It was.
You're going to have to sum up a little bit, Jeff.
Okay. Is this true? I've not seen anything in any news media, anything coming out of the legislature that says the state's going to give us no choice on taking over state roads. Are they going to do that statewide, every parish? Or is this just a misstatement, misspeak, whatever? I'd like to hear from our state representatives and senators about that. I haven't seen any proposals from the state that they're going to make us take state roads with no compensation. So I'd like that question answered. And then we do need a funding mechanism to maintain what we have, because I've heard many of y'all say we can't maintain what we have. So we're going to take a state road and we're going to become another Joe Severio situation where 10 years later we're having to rebuild it and we have no funds for it. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea to take the road. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm saying there's more questions to be answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're on item number 8, resolution authorizing the parish president to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with LADOTD for the road transfer of LA 930, LA 934, Gold Place Road only and all state-owned, and Mr. Michael Enlow.
Good evening. Well, I think everyone knows the history of this road, 930. It started in design in 2010. Right-of-way was purchased up until 2016. $3.8 million has been spent on right-of-way. It's a state road. Design was around anywhere from $500,000 to $600,000 in value. We're looking to take this road over with Gold Place and the 10 frontage roads, get the $4.8 million credit, and put it immediately to the construction of Highway 930 if we take it over. We're also going to spend a little money doing a change to the utility conflict, the pipeline conflict. There's a high-pressure gas line. If we spend $75,000 to an engineering company to cover it and reroute the drainage, it'll save $2 million off the construction cost that DOTD has estimated at 8.5. So that's $6.5 million. With the $4.8 million credit, you're looking at a difference of around, $6.25 million minus 4.87. You're looking at a $1.38 million delta. There's 3 ways we can fund this. We can use Move Ascension funds, which we have, and we can still do all the projects that are in originally phase 1 and phase 2. We're not considering them phases anymore because they're all out to design. So we have the money to do those projects right now. The second way to do it is with a CRPC credit, which is federal money of $9.3 million. That's federal money that's for Ascension Parish. We can use it on any of our roads that we want to use it on. With that federal money, we have to put up a 20% match. So the $1.38 million, if you put up the 20% match, it's around $300,000. We can get this road, we can put it into construction and pay for the construction for $300,000, which can be paid for with impact fees if this road is taken in tonight on another agenda item into the impact fee program. So it's all tax dollars, it's different buckets, but we're fixing the road. It's going to be a lot safer road, 11-foot lanes, 4-foot paved shoulders, shallow ditches. Going to go from 42 to Parish Road 929. It's going to allow us to move quickly on the 2 roundabouts that are tasked out on Henry and 929 and 930 intersections. I think that's about it. Entertain any questions. I think it's a good, good project.
Yeah, Mike, real quick, we've heard several speakers talk about the school there. I know you've been back and forth with the administration of Ascension Parish Schools, and in your discussion with them, they feel good about us trying to do something with that road.
They do. They do.
Yes, indeed.
They support it. They're happy to see that. We're thinking outside the box a little bit on this, and they want us to move forward with it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'd like to call, see Senator Eddie Lambert's here. He's here to comment on answer questions on this item. So if you could come up, Senator, please.
Hope he snuck in because I was supposed to.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And of course, this has been a project that I've been working on for a long time, and I can give you a little bit of a history about it. It was contained, first time it appeared in the capital outlay program was in 2010, which had a $500,000 in P2, $8 million in P5. It started having some work done on it. The right-of-way I know has been completed from what I understand. And the plans, according to DOTD, are 95% complete. The bill, HB2, which deals with the capital outlay program for the state, which is highway funding and some of the other projects that the parish may have. It has been in the bill for a number of years. It has received different lines of credit. It has gotten up to about $4.5 million, I think, has actually been committed to the project. The cost of the road, I'm not sure. It looks like, from what I've been able to tell, that it has probably gone up. They projected originally somewhere around $9 million, it may have been. I think it's probably a little higher than that now. And also what it's showing is, as a result of some of the changes in 2016, they're going to need some more money. It has been on a hold with the state. Representative Bacalai and myself have both pushed this thing. We had it in priority 1 last year. We were hoping it was going to get funded, and the governor vetoed it. I mean, they've had lines of credit that has been issued on it. Why it has not moved forward befuddles me. I've been on DOTD for years about this. It is an extremely dangerous road. I've been out there with Channel 2 years ago. 2 school buses can't pass on it. The road's falling apart, and it's in deplorable condition. And I will continue, along with the legislative delegation, to push for funding. But as you know, the state has problems with funding, and we're in the midst right now of a special session. And then, unfortunately, we have tremendous highway needs in this state, and we need to address those issues, whether it's going to be additional funding or some type of toll roads.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Todd Lambert?
Yeah, thank you for coming, Senator.
Well,
a couple of things that Mike mentioned, the CRPC money that's federal funded. The state don't have matching funds to handle that, because can't the state provide matching funds to get federal funds down to take care of this highway?
You know, I was under the impression, I had met with some of the people from the parish and DOTD about a month ago when Mike was in the meeting. I always thought this was a non-federal aid road, and for some reason, my understanding, it is eligible for federal funding. Why the department has not, done something with it, I don't know. It has been brought to their attention time and time again how inferior it is,
Right.
and whether or not they're going to do something with it, I will continue to keep the pressure on them.
Okay, so it's a possibility it is, and whether we can match.
Well, it's in P5. I
Okay.
don't know if y'all can match or not. Anything I can do to help facilitate
Okay.
improvements to this road, whether the parish takes it over, whether the state does it, I'm here to help, and I know Representative Bacalai is too.
And we all know the safety issues. I have a daughter-in-law teaches right there, and grandkids going, to that school. It is
Wow.
definitely a safety issue, and just like a couple roads that we had in the parish, the new road Edenborn, it got pulled out when the governor came in, and we had to fund it out of parish funds. It was guaranteed to be coming out of the
Well,
state
and that
fund.
was a road that would do some good to relieve
Correct.
traffic on Highway 30. And going back to 930, my daughter was at Prairieville Middle School, and she used to bug me about it, and she has been out of high school for 3 years.
Correct.
That's how.
So
this
she's
thing has
working
been.
on you too.
Yeah.
And one other thing, I heard you say it could be up to 9 million plus. Well, Mike's numbers may be escalating if that's the case.
Well, we've spent $4.5 million.
Yeah.
Originally, it was around a $9 million line of credit.
So we
Yeah.
we unsure of what it's actually going to cost.
All I'm doing is looking at what DOTD gave me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes DOTD, I think, runs
Yeah.
up some costs that
Yeah.
maybe can do things cheaper that
Right.
if someone else is doing it.
I guess you got to look at our point. We're looking at trying to fund our own parish roads and struggling to do so because, like one of the councilmen sadly said, we're taking in new roads almost every month. With the subdivisions getting built, and we're not getting any more funding in. And actually, the taxes are actually dropping this year. This is probably in the last 4 or 5 years our tax increased, but this year it looks like they're on the way down. So. We have to be a little bit more conservative, and in order to keep our parish roads up, we need to count on the state maybe helping. And let's talk about the road program, taking it in. I know we get credits up front, Senator, but that's all we get. Once the credits are done up front, in 20 years, roads don't last 40 years. I know it's a 40-year maintenance plan, but we know, everybody up here knows that we don't have many roads out here that last 40 years.
I have not been part of the negotiations
Okay.
with the parish, so it's going to be speculation on my
Okay.
part. You know, to be honest,
Thank
I guess you need to ask Mike or the
Right.
people with the parish who are dealing with that.
Yeah, okay. I think that's all I have for right now.
Okay, further questions?
Discussion or questions for the senator?
Either. Well, that's probably, let's do questions for Senator Lambert since he's up here.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Eddie, for coming tonight. I know you're very busy, sir, and I want to express my deep appreciation for all the work you and Tony Bacala are doing for all the state roads. I think the problem, very simply put, as Todd just indicated, is that we have the same problems you have. And I'm not going to try to play one-upsmanship like who's in worse shape financially, but we don't have the money either. That's rather clear. Just a couple of logistics things before I give my speech for this evening. We don't get this full $3.8 million, almost $4 million of state money right away. Is that correct, sir?
To be honest with you, Councilman Satterley, I have not been part of the negotiations of the road transfer program. I have put DOT together with the parish because of the frustration over the road and my frustration with nothing happening.
Because the reason I ask is, if our part of this, whether we get it from Move Ascension or CRPC or impact fees or whatever, which, by the way, even with the figures you were talking about when the state was thinking about doing it before the governor lined it out, as you said, it would pretty much in the north zone of impact fees wipe out the entire fund and probably need some more even there. I don't know a lot about the Move Ascension. I learned tonight new things that we had 2 phases there, but apparently those boundary lines are dissolved because this road is in phase 2 and is being bumped up for whatever the reason. We're going to get into that, I'm sure, in a minute, into phase 1. My concern is, though, if we need immediate relief, this isn't helping, as one council member talked about recently on social media, what's going to happen tomorrow when we wake up and little Miss Susie gets hit by a car and, is injured or perhaps even killed. With that said, obviously in my district, and love to sit down and talk to you about this at your earliest convenience, and Tony and whoever else. I keep thinking about Tiggy Duplessis. I keep thinking about Duplessis. I keep thinking about Swamp. These, as you know, are all parish-owned roads, as well as the state highways of 73 and 427, which you and I live off of, which is Old Perkins. But I got a message just this afternoon from, and I'd like to read it to the record, from Tricia Carl Moriarty, who lives in the area off Swamp Road, and writes this. This is very telling, too. Swamp Road needs to be done immediately. In the exact spot I have photographed in the attached article, and this was an article by the Pelican Post that went out and did 20-something measurements on Swamp Road, of which over 70%, maybe not as bad as non-30, where it was like 95 or 98%. Actually published a piece on that, below 18 feet. But on Swamp, about 70% of the measurements they made, I think they made 20-some odd, were below 18 feet. But between Airline and Webb Road, on May 12, members of my family, the individual writes, Ms. Moriarty, were in a head-on collision, and she supplies a picture, I wish I could show it on the overhead, of a vehicle that doesn't look like a vehicle anymore. And my niece suffered internal injuries, she writes, a broken collarbone for which she endured 2 surgeries and is still recovering. My sister-in-law broke several ribs. Another niece and nephew suffered severe concussions. This has to be avoided if the roads, this could have been avoided if the road was not so narrow. If you will be spending more in lawsuits, I promise you, than you will be in repairing roads if we don't get all this fixed. Shame on you, Doc, for not getting this done. Well, I know we're not a police jury. I know, but yet, even that said, with a homeroom charter, which might even have that much longer, it seems like, a whole nother subject, we all fighting for things in our district. But I do have difficulty sleeping at night, worrying about the people on Tiggy Duplessis and Swamp and the other roads I've mentioned and everything. So I just want to, in a minute, Mr. Chairman, when we're done with the senator, I want to thank him again for coming and so forth. I am going to rise in opposition to this, and I have a prepared statement I would like to read into the record. Thank you for listening.
We have questions for Mr. Lambert. Mr. Lawler.
Just want to tell you thank you. Thank you very much for your work on this. I know it's been ongoing. You've been working hard on it, and hopefully we can come through for you and help all of us on this.
Well, I'll do whatever I can to, whether on the state level, whatever, to facilitate this road getting improved. I mean,
You've done a lot already.
Well, I wish I could do more. We've got about $4 million, I guess, that went into it, $4.5 million with the right-of-way. And at least that's a start, but hopefully it needs to get done.
Todd Lambert.
Okay, I'll take that.
I promoted you.
Yeah, Senator, one quick question, just for the public's knowledge. Where does the transportation comes from for the state?
You talking about the parish transportation?
No, for the state.
It comes from road taxes.
Which is gasoline?
Gasoline taxes.
How much on the gasoline we pay per gallon?
If I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere around 20 cents, plus you have the time program, which is, I think time is 4 and state is 16. And I actually have on my website to show you what's going on with the problems with the state. It's 1988, I believe, was the last time you had a gas tax increase. Mm-hmm. At that time, if my memory is correct, you generated about $493 million. Gas tax revenues have gone up and down. Some years they're a little bit more, but currently, I think the last time I looked at it, and on my webpage, maybe somewhere around 600 or 700 million. You've only had a growth, if you look over the 30-year period, it hasn't been very much. And of course, cost has gone up. And that's one of the problems the state is having, is you don't have the revenue that is going.
Same as the parish, yeah.
It's a revenue problem.
Right. And I guess, for the public, I guess explain to them, well, how does that money get spent? I know it's say your gasoline tax that everybody pays on gas. Does it go to Ascension Parish when it's bought there?
Well, no.
I know where it goes, but I want you to
it goes and it's distributed throughout the state.
In one pot.
Yes. Yeah, and the problem is if you just say it's going to go to Ascension Parish, well, then you don't know, what our needs are in 1 year. Or your problem is if you're getting $3 million or $4 million a year out of Ascension Parish, towards Ascension Parish roads, we may be getting much more than that. When you look at Highway 42, that's a $29 million project. So, it's collected on a statewide level, but then it's sent back.
Yeah.
If you were to send it back to each parish, which some people have advocated, the problem is it doesn't give you enough money to do the major projects which you ultimately need.
Okay. I know 42's been going on since
That's
1997. So.
Well,
yeah.
I know when I got elected in 2003, that was one of the things I ran on, and it was basically off the books. We got it back going, Senator Amadei and I at the time, and it took us a long time.
Took us a while to collect that money. That's correct. So. I appreciate it again for coming, Senator.
Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Senator, for coming. We appreciate everything you've done, especially for this road. You mentioned the program. I've heard things about it in the past, but I'm gonna make sure I understand it correctly. Even though we're paying towards the time program, there's no projects from the time program in Ascension, is there?
None that I know of.
And so even though we're paying taxes to that, it doesn't count for anything. Then it's already been spent. It's basically going back paying bond debt on the program. It's already been done in other parts of the state. So it really doesn't count for anything we're paying, right?
Not anything there is no time project to my knowledge in Ascension Parish.
Yeah. Okay. I want to make sure I was right on that. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cluett.
Senator Lambert, once again, thank you for coming. And I know you've been working on this for a long time. You guys up there trying to get some budget stuff straight. But I'm going to tell you what, we sincerely appreciate you coming in front of us and bringing us the reality. That, you talked about this road being possibly available for federal funds, but what's the reality? The reality is that it hadn't made it yet.
It's
through three different administrations and 4 different DOT directors. Okay,
we got $4 million, whatever, and it needs a lot more done. And you based on reality and what's available in front of us, you come here to support this, and that this is the best opportunity we got right now to make this repair. I think I'd like to see the road improved, however it gets done.
Thank you, sir. That's all I got.
Okay, so we have, thank you, Senator Lambert, again, for
Mr. Chairman,
coming.
I have another question for the senator.
Oh, okay, Mr. Senator.
Eddie, One of our council members has talked about the gas tax, so I won't whip that to death, and the other about the time tax, or the time money. What about sales taxes? Do people in Ascension Parish and all parishes that pay state portions of the overall sales tax, any of that money either dedicated, or if not, is it used for roads? And how much of it would you reckon is coming back to Ascension Parish?
State sales tax is, DOTD gets very little, if any, general appropriations. It's almost self-funded strictly by the gasoline tax. I mean, there's been some talk about in this last session.
So no matter how much we consume in Ascension Parish in goods and services, there's no guarantee that any, or as you said, little of that money is going to go to a.
Well, the only way it comes back to you is a lot of times would be through capital outlay, which helps, which is HB2, and basically what your revenue stream allows you to sell bonds. So indirectly, you know, some of that would come back to you.
So you're saying state sales tax does fund HB2?
It's used to set the line of credit in HB2, because what they're going to do is look at what your ability to is repay, and they're going to look at your general fund. And so the answer is yes, somehow it does go back, just like any other state taxes, because your ability to fund HB2, and especially the bond, the projects, based on your income. Just
so,
like
if we have a surplus in the fund, does it hurt us in terms of the way the state would look at us and want to give us some money back through HB2? Or?
You mean general fund for Ascension Parish?
For the parish, right.
I don't think it has any effect on it.
No effect on it. Okay.
I mean, I don't. There's a lot of other factors that come into HB2.
Yeah, I don't want to know about them, but thank you.
One of them is a veto.
I want the record, thank you, Senator, for coming here tonight. I know you're very busy. I know you're working real hard on this and all. This is a difficult thing, just like you have to do all the time. We have to do our business too, but thank you.
Okay, thank y'all.
Got Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Hold on, Senator.
Appreciate you.
All right.
And look, I know we've been working on this. I think it's been 2008, 2010.
That's about, yeah, that's when we started on it.
This has been a long haul. But in reality is what's if we don't move forward, what I'm worried with the state, they will bring this road, if they don't bring it up today, I'm mighty afraid it will go back to a gravel road.
It isn't far from that now.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, Eddie.
Say that again.
It isn't far from that now.
And Doc, you've been in those committee meetings with all of us here. The state is willing to work with us on this. If we turn this back, I'm mighty afraid that, you know, what's to come, the state will not have the ability to improve the road, and you will have a gravel road. They will bring it back for whatever they have to do to, you know, to pass it, but I think we have to move forward on this. If we don't, I don't think we want to see our people what the driving conditions going to be on this road. And look, this is 5 districts that's going through this road. Also, Livingston. They know the back roads now to the plants too. They coming through here. So I'm just afraid to see what's going to come if we don't take action. And I think we're in the best position. And I appreciate you working on me on Joe Severio Road. This is one of the only roads that were taken in on a road transfer in the state. There was 2 in the state, and this was one of them. So I appreciate you working on me.
And like I say, I don't know all the details of it. I mean, but I will do whatever I can, and the delegation from Ascension to assist y'all in getting you the best deal you can with the state.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Lambert. Really appreciate that. Now, so do we have any more questions for Mr. Enlow? Mr. Lawler?
I have a question. I'd like to read something into the record.
Okay.
I guess my question is, I'd heard something about Joe Severio Road being resurfaced, I believe. Was that the state that did that, or did the parish do that?
The state. The state did that, not the parish.
Okay.
And the Joe Severio was taken before the road transfer program actually existed on paper, from what I understand. It was, you know, a deal worked out. I think it was about the same amount. The credit was about the same, but I think they were in the works of developing the road transfer program.
This was the beginning of the road transfer
program.
Yes,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
If I may, real quick, I'd like to read into the record. I received a letter from Representative Bacala, and he asked that I read into the record. It says, "Dear Councilman Lawler," and I will attach this to the record when I'm complete. "Please accept this letter of my endorsement of the proposed resolution of the Ascension Parish Council relative to the transfer of roads from the Louisiana Department of Transportation to the Parish of Ascension. In particular, I feel that the transfer of LA 930 is in the best interest of the people of Ascension Parish, as it will afford the parish greater authority through this residential highway and its future development. I will begin by noting that Louisiana 930 is a substandard highway, being less than acceptable in width and without shoulders. For this reason, it was scheduled for an upgrade last year at an estimated cost of $7,560,100 to the state. However, this project was removed from the state's capital outlay budget for the stated reason that the Ascension Parish government did not complete documentation related to the transfer of ownership from the state to the parish upon completion of upgrades. It is my understanding that no such documents were ever presented to the parish for completion. In recent conversations with the Secretary of the DOTD, it is my understanding that the best way to expedite upgrades to LA 930 is to transfer the roadway to the parish under the conditions outlined in the proposed resolution. For that reason, I fully support the resolution as a means of serving the people of Ascension Parish who live or travel along LA 930. Sincerely, Tony Bacala, State Representative, District 59.
Okay.
And thank you, Tony.
Pleasure of the council.
I got one more discussion.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Lambert.
I know we're setting a precedence by doing in this road. I don't know if y'all don't have in y'all district, but I have roads, state highways in my district that's deplorable. And Highway 74, when you hit the bridge over there, it's about to throw you off the road. It's so bad. We're going to take in this road. We're going to take in other roads. We don't have the funding down the road to take in all these state roads. And we're setting a precedence by taking in this one. What about the next one that comes to us? Can we deny taking it in? Well, you know, who's gonna vote to deny to take it in? Then down the road, 20 years from now, they may be gravel because the parish ain't gonna be able to repair them because we're not gonna have the funding. We don't have enough funding, like you said, to keep up what we have now. I know the situation. It's definitely a safety issue, and I appreciate Senator and Tony to what they're doing to try to get it done. But we are setting a precedence that where there's many state highways that's in deplorable shape, just like this one, and very much safety issues. Highway 74 is a major corridor, and it is tore up, especially by the bridge. Like I said, it's when you come off the bridge, you better hang on to the steering wheel and slow it down because it'll throw you. And that's my concern as a councilman and a parish councilman, that, you know, we need to protect what we have first, and hopefully the state down the road can, you know, come up with revenue to help, you know, take care of their roads. I'm just saying, it's taking in roads, major through roads, that's a very costly expense to overlay them in 15 to 20 years, and you know that's going to happen. We're going to have to do it because they just don't hold up. With the soil and the foundation that we have, I haven't seen a road last 20-plus years anyway. And that's my take on this situation.
Okay. I have Councilman Lawler.
I understand the concerns with supposedly setting precedent, but I don't think that this sets any sort of precedent whatsoever. We've got a very unique situation right here. We're getting more from the state. If you compare it to when we took in Joseph Ario Road, we're getting a lot more from the state at this time. This is a very unique situation. This is not perfect. This is not ideal. But we've been doing things the same way for the past 10, 20, 30, 40 years. At this time, we have to be willing to act. We cannot be afraid to act. We cannot be afraid of maintenance costs. We have to be willing to take the destiny of our safety and our traffic into our hands and take responsibility for it sometimes. We have an opportunity here to do something. Now, we've heard different arguments. We can't maintain. This is the state's responsibility. And what about my road? And, you know, when we say that we can't maintain, we have started a new maintenance program within the Parish of Ascension. We've started chip sealing and crack sealing roads. We're working on it right now. We've bought new equipment that we use for, I think it's chip sealing, which I'm not too familiar with it, but that's new to this parish. And when you chip seal a road, it adds 8 to 10 years of life to that road. It's something we've never done before in this parish. In the past, we've done the same thing. We fix potholes and we do some big overlays, which are really expensive. But chip sealing and crack sealing is a new maintenance program that we're doing. that's going to give life to the roads that are currently in our system and extend their lifespan. So when we talk about the fear of future maintenance, we're doing something about that right now. It's never been done in this parish. This council and this administration has taken the lead on doing something different to really extend the life of our program, of our roads. State responsibility, true. This is a state road. But I can tell you it's not being fixed despite unending and total effort by our state delegation. And it's Senator Lambert, Representative Bacala, Representative Berthelot, they have all worked on this to help us. Representative Schexnayder is also up. I've talked to him about this. At this point, I'm tired of pointing the finger or waiting. I'm not going to point the finger at the state anymore. We have an opportunity to do something to fix a road that is dangerous, that passes right in front of a school, that gets a lot of traffic. Why are we constantly waiting on somebody else to help us? We have an opportunity to do something quickly. Unlike all the other roads in our parish, we have right-of-way, if this passes, on this road. We don't have right-of-way on T.E. Duplessis. We don't have right-of-way on Duplessis or 74 or Swamp Road. We don't have any of that. But we do have it on this road. We don't have right-of-way on Henry Road yet. And that's been like that for years. This is our opportunity to do something and do it quickly. The public, they're tired of inaction. They're tired of us pointing the finger at the state and the state pointing the finger at us. We need to do something. Now, what about my road? We hear this all the time. You know, I've got a road here that's dangerous. I've got a road there that's dangerous. This is a very unique situation. We're getting a road with right-of-way that's been engineered. This is going to come into us, and we will be able to repair it quickly and at relatively little cost. I think, from what I understand, it's about $300,000, give or take, of parish money, of impact fee money going into it, about 1.7 of federal money going into it. I know our delegation is going to work that maybe we can get some state money to help defer that $300,000 or pay for all of it. That'd be fantastic. But this is a project that's going to help a lot of the people in Ascension Parish. This project, contrary to what a lot of people said, is not going to prevent us from working on any other roads. This project is part of the Move Ascension project. It's always been. The CRPC had this in their 2015 to 2018 project. This is not something coming about within the last 6 months. And quite frankly, I get tired of hearing ridiculous conspiracy theories that people want to throw up there with total disregard for facts. This project has been on the books for years. People have been working on this project diligently for years. Now we have an opportunity to do something about it. We thought it was going to be taken care of last year. We thought it was in the budget. And when that fell through, we said we have to do something about this. Now the voters of Ascension Parish want people to do something about things, not to sit there and point fingers at each other saying it's your responsibility, no, it's your responsibility, oh, let's wait, I'm afraid to act. This is our chance to do something. If we're going to do something, let's start doing things. I'm tired of sitting on my butt and not doing anything about it. And we've done this for 10, 15, 20 years. If we want to keep doing the same thing, we're going to have the same bad roads, the same bad traffic problems. We're not going to get anywhere. And that's what we've done. Now, I know we have some people that just want to sit here and say, okay, I'm afraid to act. I'm not afraid to act. Let's do something about this. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to back up in this parliamentary procedure just a little bit. So we should have a motion. Make sure we can get a motion. We have a motion by Councilman Lawler and a second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Now we have discussion. Mr. Sadley.
Yes, it seems like a century since I spoke last, but like Lee Corso is fond of saying, not so fast. Mr. Chairman, I rise and will give reasons why it's not a good idea to take Highway 930 into the AP Parish Road maintenance system at this time. As I said during the consent agenda item, long term, we are adding more and more and more roads to fix on top of the already, we used to just throw the number out there, greater than 500 miles, I don't know what that number is now, of existing parish roads, and the monthly never-ending addition of these miles and miles of new subdivision roads with never, keyword emphasize, enough money to fix them. Let's face it, as a public speaker said earlier this evening, this is the prime reason why the council's proposed Lanes for Change tax program failed at the voting booths. Number two, the past performance of the Swamp swap program. We're bragging tonight about being only two, and we were fortunate to have one. But I believe what Mr. Lambert said in the Transportation Committee from whence this item just came. It's failed miserably. He gave the example of Joe Savario Road. This road was taken in, quote unquote, by Ascension Parish, resurfaced less than 10 years ago, I might add, as Mr. Danlow just testified, by the state. Yet it's already in our Move Ascension program for widening with, quote, lots of shoulder work needed, unquote. What's the bottom line? The bottom line is, in District 4, in my constituents, I have a poll on my website right now. As of this evening, it was running. 74 people voted, 73 against taking the road in. Only one person telling me, Doc, you should vote to take it in. Bottom line, I agree with Mr. Lambert. We should not take in state roads that are, quote, not up to standards, Ascension Parish road standards, by the way, because, quote, state credits do not overcome our maintenance costs in the long run. That's a fact, Jack. In the case of Highway 930, Ascension Parish would be coming in once again. Number 3, to bail out the state, considering that the Governor Edwards, that's the man that everybody ought to be angry with, vetoed the monies to resurface and reconstruct their, that's a key personal pronoun, their highway. It's owned by the state of Louisiana, not Ascension Parish. Number 4, for every dollar of gasoline, we saw this tonight sold, 20 cents or whatever goes for a tax to the state's transportation fund. This, in my opinion, is little more than double dipping taxation. Again, yet another reason why the aforementioned Lanes for Change tax program failed. In other words, we need to stop using AP tax dollars to take in state-owned roads, like Highway 930, Joe Savario, who knows what's coming down the line, okay, and improving them when the state has already taxed our citizens to maintain said roads. We are, in so doing, essentially facilitating bad and irresponsible behavior by the state of Louisiana. Please forgive me, Eddie. Number 5, state credits are calculated based upon what they, the state, estimates to be, quote, 40 years of maintenance. Yet we know by past experience, Mr. Chairman, that these roads only last about 10 to 15 years before they need significantly costly repairs. What's the result of this? Ascension Parish adopted roads come back up for resurfacing long before the state credits last, even if we were to get them all immediately. But I think the answer to my question early, I didn't mean it to be a loaded one, is you do not get that money, all of it, up front. And so what does this cause? Our children, our grandchildren, to be left, quote unquote, holding the bag. Now this particular road swap, H90, is highly suspicious. I don't care what my colleague just said. It smacks of preferential treatment. Everyone knows and agrees that lots of roads all across Ascension Parish, I didn't see anybody tonight saying it ain't so, are in a horrible state of disrepair. But this one, all of a sudden, is at the top of the list for improvement, regardless of the history, okay? We just had a subdivision, Jamestown Crossing, approved. There's a lawsuit about it, temporary restraining order. Today it's in, tomorrow it's not, whatever. But you can't tell me this is all coincidence. The public, rightfully so, is suspicious is the point. And public trust is important, especially in D4, okay? The D7 council member, not here tonight, stands to make nearly $1 million. It's all over the internet from the sale of property, development of Jamestown Crossing off of 930. Initially, it's currently under, as I said, lawsuit by Ascension Parish citizens because our land development code laws, requiring a minimum road width of 18 feet, was ignored by our planning commission who approved the preliminary plat. Number 7, media has asked the Transportation Committee members for a road repair prioritization list. I know because I was copied on that, as were every member of this council, but all we have is crickets, silence. We at least know Highway 930 is, quote, not even in Phase 1 of MA now. Elephants out the room on that one for address. Rather, it's down the list in Phase 2, okay? It's fair then, in my opinion, to ask, in just my district alone, and I don't want to make this about D4, but I think this question can be asked for all 11 districts. But at D4, what about Highway 73? What about Highway 427, a.k.a. Perkins Road? What about Tiggy Duplessis? What about Duplessis? What about Swamp Road? It's a mix of roads that are both state and parish owned. Are they any less important? No. In fact, I read you earlier about what a head-on collision did to several of my constituents in terms of surgeries, internal injuries, and broken bones. Finally, last but not least, Mr. Chairman, why is there no real discussion, an explanation on how we will pay for what I would call the red-headed orphan stepchild, not even mentioned yet tonight, hidden cost? I've never seen one of these things where oh, we can do it for this amount of money. Well, later on, we find out, look, it's more than that, a whole lot more than that. We must do better. I thank everyone for listening.
Okay. Further discussion? All right, opposition? Mr. Sadler, we have opposition. Madam Secretary, would you open the voting machines, please? Okay, please close the voting machines. Motion passes 6-2. All right, general business, item number 9, and I'll read this, and then we have a speaker on this. Approval of lowest responsive bid for construction of 4 timber bridges, Bird Allen Ditch. And the speaker, Darrell, first we have a speaker, Ms. Carol Chambers. Sorry.
How you doing, Councilman? Okay, my name is Carol Chambers, and I'm representing our company, Chambers Construction. We were the low bidder on this project of these 4 bridges. However, our bid was rejected due to some wording that we had in the section of addendum. Would y'all like to see a copy of the bid form?
I think we have that in the packet, do we?
Okay.
Ms. McKee? Yes, it's on Novus.
Our wording, well, the question on the bid form asks for the bidders to acknowledge all the addenda. The bidder acknowledges receipt of the following addenda, and our wording was 3 as of May 30th, 2018. I guess our question is, why it's being rejected. Is the wording itself enough to throw our bid out? We are acknowledging that there were 3 addendas on this bid. Our bid was actually $56,000 less than the next bidder. So I know, money, of course, is a factor. But, we were hoping that maybe things could be reconsidered or looked at again and given maybe a better explanation as to, of the rejection.
Is that all?
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Ms. Chambers. Okay, Darrell, and then we'd like to ask maybe Mr. Parrington if you could comment on this.
You want me to comment first, or? Okay.
Between you and Darrell, it doesn't matter.
Well, the bid form says each addenda must be acknowledged, and it said 3. The other 2 bids said addenda 1, 2, and 3. The law says the advertisement for bids in the bid form shall not be waived by any public entity, and it requires that all of the forms of the bid form, which is the bid security, a bond, the acknowledgement of addenda, the base bid, the alternates, all of that must be acknowledged and signed. And the form said each individual addenda needed to be acknowledged. The other 2 did. They had addenda 1, addenda 2, and addenda 3. Their bid did not. And so it did not, it's not in compliance with the public bid law, and you do not have the authority to waive the formalities of the bid form. So we had to recommend that bid was not in conformance with the bid law, and we have to go to the next bidder.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lambert.
how much money are we talking about?
$56,000.
What was the bid that we're gonna have to take?
The next bid that we're going to be accepting is in the amount of $230,000.
Wow.
There you go.
I'd recommend we bring this back, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lambert, let me suggest that it's within your budget, and if it's within the budget that was advertised and you don't take it, you can't bid it for a year.
I'll make
This
I'll make a motion to accept the next lowest bidder in River Road Construction. I
second
understand the issue, but
Got a motion by Councilman Benny Johnson, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Mr. Kluart?
Yeah, real quick, I get a little upset with this stuff too, because having to deal with this a while back, and since I've been elected, this is about the 4th time or 5th time in a couple terms that I know that somebody submitted a bid and the verbiage was a little bit off, something was missed. And I'm gonna tell you, we had this argument some of you guys weren't elected the first round. OJ was here, Benny was here, Todd and them bunch. And I do feel bad. I feel just like Dempsey feels that, you know, hey, not only do I feel bad, we apparently throwing about $60,000 more at it. But we're hell bound, and we even got some outside advice years ago on this, because I personally was raising hell about it, all right? And there was nothing that could be done. But the best thing we can do, what we can do, Mr. James can't help you now, but what we can do is make sure that our bid packages are clear, and that our communications are clear, because we're bound to be clear and follow the law in that respect also, not just follow the law after this bid has come in. And I appreciate the work you guys do in the administration, and I know, because I'm the first one always to question, even if we got one bid, why can't we get 5, you know? So, but we've been down this road before, and there was nothing legal that we could do.
Further discussion, I'm sorry.
That's it.
Finish.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Do we have a motion and a second? You know, any opposition? Hearing none, that motion is adopted. Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
Item number 10, renewal of master contract with CSRS for engineering review agency services. Mr. Fournier.
Chairman, members of the council, this is just an ordinary renewal of an existing contract with CSRS to extend it another year. The initial contract was established in 2016, then a new contract was established last year. This will continue it to next year. We collect revenue from the development community to pay for this contract. As of the contract amount is $250,000 for the full 2-year period. From June 10th, 2017 to June 9th, 2018, we expended $122,500 on this contract. We've collected in that same time period $134,240 from the development community. And that includes pre-application meetings, preliminary plat review, construction plan review, minor subdivision review, and final plat review fees that we collect from the community. So they are paying for the contract. Right? So,
Questions for Mr. Fournier? Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, Jerome. Didn't last year we added some funds to this contract?
we did because.
What was the original contract, first contract? What was the first contract? What was the cost?
The first contract, see, I have that. We entered into a contract with COS for a very short period of time for $24,999. And that covered a very short
that's
period.
not the number I'm remembering.
No, and then we went back to council and we reestablished the contract for the $250,000, which is what we're doing right now. Right?
Okay.
So we had a small amount in there just to get them going, and then we came back to council for the full 2-year period that covers the $250,000. It's up to question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Cluett.
Yeah, real quick, and OJ, that is what it
I
done.
just know
Because
that-
you and I were in a meeting when they came back for the second portion, and we were very inquisitive about it. So I guess I'm gonna ask you once again tonight, like I did a year ago, did the rate fees change? Did they go up? Because it's kind of it's not necessarily T&M, but there's a budgeted amount based on work done.
Correct.
So did their rate structure go up, their fees?
No, it's established in the contract that was approved last year. So the
Okay,
same rate structure that they charge.
So there was no elevation of fees in the different classifications?
No.
That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Mr. Sadler.
Motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jerome. So the contract we have with CSRS is open-ended so that yearly it can just be renewed for, I guess, the $250,000 amount or wherever you'd come up to argue for change? Or is there any time where we would gut check ourselves to be sure we're getting the proper bang from the buck, even though collecting more developer fees to pay for what they're even asking. In other words, do we ever have to bid this out? Or?
Well, this contract will have to be reestablished next year. It's for a 2-year period. So next year, we'll have to go out and
So it will go for bid next year?
We'll go out to bid next year.
The original contract was for how long?
For 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which explains the
Right.
the 250 and the 250 refresher.
Right.
That we're asking for tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert to approve. Second. A second by Councilman Johnson. Further discussion, opposition? Hearing none, that motion is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Fournier. Okay, we have item number 11, substantial completion re-roofing of Ascension Parish courthouses east and west. Dean Thomason.
Good evening. Yeah, this is a contract that came into once I came on with the parish. The contract has been fulfilled. There is a punch list with a few items on it, but we feel that within the period of 45 days, before we cut the last of it loose, that we'll be able to accomplish all the punch list items that are on the list.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
A motion by Councilman Dempsey Lambert, second by Councilman Kluhat. I have a couple of questions. Is that punch list is incorporated into the substantial completion? Because I didn't
Yes,
think I
sir.
saw it on the, okay. Additionally, is this the same contract where we had the leak problems on Ascension Parish Courthouse West,
Yes, sir.
where the records were damaged? So how did that,
They rectified the issue. They fixed it, replaced the materials that they damaged, and we repaired the roof,
So we've been reimbursed for those extra costs that we had and the clerk had in that process, am I correct?
As far as I know, that was done before I started.
Yeah, I realize that,
so,
yeah.
From my understanding, yes, sir, it was done.
Mr. Dawson?
It's my understanding that's being handled by the insurance, and Mr. Parrington may want to weigh in on that.
No, it's been handled by the insurance.
It's handled by the
Not
insurance.
involved in it.
So we filed an insurance claim, is
Yes.
that correct?
I can
Okay.
find, yes. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Further discussion, Mr. Kluhat?
Well, this is the first time I've seen you at the podium, Dean, so I want to welcome you.
I appreciate it, Randy.
Been knowing you for a little bit, and
Yeah.
appreciate you. You got your task cut out for you, Been
Oh, yeah.
beaten up in industry and all that, and now you're in public. So a little bit tougher work.
Yeah,
Appreciate your patience.
Different animal, but
Yes,
I'm always
indeed.
up for a good challenge.
Indeed. Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Okay, so any opposition? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Item number 12, notice of consideration of action regarding calling an election to authorize the levy and collection of an ad valorem tax for the purpose of paying costs related to animal control in the parish and for other lawful expenses related thereto. We have Mr. Dugas, yeah, there he is.
Does it require a
Mr.
motion?
Dugas. It does, yes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Lawler, a second by Councilman Satterly. And we also have Ms. Jolie Culpepper here in case there are questions from the CARA group. She's been sitting here patiently through all this. Okay, Mr.
Just need to read this in the record.
Okay,
Pursuant to LARS 42:19.1, notice of consideration of action regarding an ad valorem tax. Notice is hereby given that the Parish Council of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, will meet on Thursday, August 2nd, 2018, at 6 p.m. at the Donaldsonville Courthouse, 300 Homer Street, 2nd floor, Donaldsonville, Louisiana, at which time there will be consideration of action regarding calling an election to authorize the levy and collection of an ad valorem tax for the purpose of paying costs related to animal control in the parish and for other lawful expenses related thereto.
thank you. Pleasure of the council. Call question.
Discussion.
Let's see if we can get a motion in a second.
I thought y'all had that already.
You already got
Oh,
that.
yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, guys, I don't have a, I know y'all know my stand on this. It says in here that it's animal control in the parish. It sounds like the parish is going after this tax, but it's an independent operation that's signing a contract with the parish. I sat in on about 4 years ago at Lake Primary when this group decided they wanted to take over the animal shelter. And there was going to be mostly volunteers. And I agreed. I was at that meeting, spoke at that meeting in agreement with it, because they could use a certain amount of money, because mostly everything they was going to use was going to be volunteer help. Well, after it turned over a year or two, it's come back to us that we need additional funding. We gave them additional $250,000, but now they're looking for a $1.2 million in a one meal property tax. And like I said, this is an independent operation. It's not parish operated. And I think the last I heard when they came to us about a year ago, there was up to 14 employees that they were actually paying. And I think they need quite a few more. So I guess my big question is, it's supposed to be voluntary, a lot of volunteers running this operation, but all of a sudden now they need millions of dollars to make this happen. And I just can't support putting it on the ballot.
Okay, so I would like to get, have one clarification that the tax is the parish, the money will go to the parish, and then this council will decide if there's a contract. As you're correct that Kara currently has the contract for half of the work that's being proposed here under this, but.
So you saying there's a possibility that Kara won't be operating this facility, that the parish will be taking it back over?
Well, I'm saying that this will have to be, it will have to be done under a contract that this council approves.
Won't we do that before we try to go to the ballot with the tax?
So, you know, this is where we are today.
Yeah, I know, and it's like jumping. You're saying we may have a contract with them after the fact, after we pass the tax?
We currently have a contract with them.
Correct.
And the parish,
They the one came forward tax for this one meal property tax. The Kara group under contract.
That's correct.
The council, I'm sorry.
Jolie Culpepper.
Yeah, the council is the one that instructed us to go after this tax. This was not the animal shelter bringing this to the council. We asked for a budget increase a year ago, and the council presented us with bringing this back to y'all in the form of getting a permanent tax to fund all animal services in the parish. It's not specifically for the animal shelter or Kara's house. This is for all animal services within Ascension Parish, whether Kara's house is running the shelter or not. This is a tax for the parish to have a dedicated funding mechanism for animal services.
And one question, was I right about the employees? How many employees you are paying now? The last y'all said when y'all came, when you asked for the increase, I think it was close to 14.
We have mostly part-time employees. We have 5, I believe, full-time, and 6 part-time, I believe, currently.
Okay. Further discussion or questions? Mr. Sadler?
Yeah, really not a question, Jolie. I mean, just for the record, we are currently, as a company, funding 2 arms in this endeavor. One is animal control in-house. The other is a cooperative endeavor agreement with the adoption, foster programs, and so forth with Kara.
Correct.
And my understanding is that the total money involved there is, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around $700,000 maybe?
Between 700 and 800, yes.
Yeah, but about half split between the 2 entities, and that may be why our chairman chose to say for half the work. So the tax will generate $1.2 million. I think that's something that Mr. Lambert is stated and concerned about.
Yes.
But the reality is, it's not a status quo in terms of the services being provided.
Correct.
In other words, as I understand it, there will be, for example, instigation of trap, spray, and neuter programs with the cats. There will be in-house veterinarian to increase efficiency on Kara's paying for that out of pocket and out of hand right now. There will be potentially the ability to bond some of this money and build a modern-day facility besides that terrible facility. Anyone wants to debate that with me, I'll be glad to do that. It's out there in Sorrento right now that you guys deal with. And there'll be expansion in terms of square footage and in cages and so forth and so on. Is all that true?
And we're actually performing more than half of the required duties. Since the flood, the animal control building where they used to house bite cases, court cases, and a few other things, their facility flooded. So they're in a very tiny trailer.
And for the record, Ms. Culpepper, your organization, being a nonprofit, you don't have your money doing this, but you bring in probably, I'm going to use the word substantial, you tell me the number of donations to the table that the parish wouldn't otherwise be given or gaining, if you will, in terms of free food from, I don't know, Walmart and PetSmart and Petco. I don't mean to drop names necessarily, and then people that give you cash donations and people that volunteer their time and aren't, as Mr. Lambert said, paid a penny. Is that not all true?
That is. Because of our status, we've opened a lot of avenues that the parish doesn't necessarily have in the form of specific grants.
Would you put a number, care to put a number on how much money CARA brings to the table in donations that aren't taxpayer funded? Directly through a tax. I mean, taxpayers may give you a donation.
Right. I don't have a number
I know what it was a few years ago.
None. As far as donations before we took over. But since
it was a six-digit figure last time I looked at it.
From before we took over?
Well,
being donated?
When y'all were doing what they call, y'all were coming into the facility when we did everything in-house, and you were, what's the word, pulling. I think is the professional word, animals out for adoption and so forth. You know, you would have to pay for food and vetting and so forth.
Yes.
And I was understanding that you were getting that from Cypress Vet and another maybe veterinary clinic, and instead of, for example, charging you a full price for a service.
Yes.
Be that a fecal float or whatever, they would charge you like half. And the
That's
number
correct.
that I was given by your legal counsel at the time was around 6 digits. I just want to be sure that that's,
in the
y'all
amount
still
that-
taking money like that in, right?
In the amount that we save, it's not
Right.
cash.
Right.
It's not cash money
No,
we receive.
In
It's-
kind, you know.
It's in kind, yes.
All right.
Food donations, medications, and veterinarian services.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, we got a lot of entities out there. We got the mosquito control that's not funded by a dedicated tax, and we have to live within the means of what we have to operate these organizations that's doing a lot of good to the parish. I have no problem that they're doing an excellent job. But, you know, down the road, guys, it's been told to us that many studies that we done had on sewer. How many studies that we had on sewer since 1997 when I was on board, and that sewer could run us $90 a month and without a subsidy. Now, you and I, some of us guys up here can pay that, but there's a lot of our parents, a lot of grandparents, a lot of people that's retired is going to struggle. And sewer is going to have to come. We're going to get mandated to do it. So taxes, you know, you keep, you know, bringing taxes up. We've been failed how many times now? We done failed 3 times every time this council has brought up a tax. And it's just something to think about down the road.
Mr. Johnson, did you have?
Yes, sir. I greatly appreciate what they're doing with the funds that they currently have, but like Councilman Lambert, I think there's a lot of times we have to live within our means. The other part of it as well is there are, depending on who you talk to, some higher priority needs there. I've been saying this for years, echoing what he just talked about with sewer. If we are going to successfully do sewer, we're going to need some type of revenue stream to support that endeavor. And the public may be for this, and if they are, more power to them, but I can't support putting it on there before we do something towards sewer, which I believe is of a higher priority of the parish. I'm not going to support it.
Okay. Pleasure of the council. We don't have a motion yet.
Motion.
Had a
To put
motion
it-
by Councilman Joseph.
No, we got a motion.
You did. You had a motion and a second.
Mr. Lawler.
Motion by Lawler, second by Sadler.
Sorry,
Go to
got
the
lost
vote.
in the conversation. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, opposition? We have opposition. Please open the voting machines. Okay, please close the voting machines. Motion carries 6-2. Okay, item number 13, approval to pay for consulting services for Home Rule Charter Revision Committee not to exceed $15,000. Have my name by this, so, thank you, Ms. Culpepper. We have a resolution, this was a tax.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion?
Can you explain it more? You was
Yes,
fixing to? I'd like to
Yeah.
hear.
I would like to
hear.
hear.
Okay.
I forgot y'all out there.
So we had in the forming resolution of the charter committee, then we put in there that costs would be reimbursed by the council for them to get expert legal opinion, and so this is what this is. We have an independent lawyer from Taylor Porter, Brooks and Phillips that is there to assist the charter review committee in establishing those proposed amendments.
Got a question.
Okay, all right, let's get Mr. Cluard first.
So what exactly is put forward to this legal that he needs to answer on, what's the main question that we got the special legal counsel?
Well,
for?
there were several questions.
Because, I mean, we have access to legal counsel. I'm just,
We
it
came.
might be something special, so I'm
Yeah,
good with that.
so we brought in, it was suggested that we bring in somebody with a specialty in governmental law or in charter type.
Yeah.
And this, I think Mr. Lawler, I wouldn't want to speak on Mr. Phillips's qualifications, but I think Mr. Lawler can.
Well, I'm all right with the qualifications. I'm not
Yeah.
questioning him, I'm
So
asking,
we came-
he's there to give
He's-
them some,
he's
give that
actually-
committee some advice on what's the legalities of going forward with the,
Well, it's
ADA
also the
proposal
form
or
and then
what?
questions during the process. So he's already been at, I think, two committee meetings? He's already been there to answer questions and provide guidance to the committee members.
okay, so he's already hired.
He wasn't hired, but he came with the understanding that, the possibility to get the contract, but he's there to provide the guidance.
Okay. I'm done.
I got a question on that.
All right, Mr. Lambert.
Normally we get it approved before we hire somebody.
Well, we didn't sign a
That's the
contract
normal
with
way of how we operate.
We
I know you
didn't.
didn't sign no contract.
Yeah.
But he's working for free if we don't approve this tonight?
I would assume he is.
I
yes.
assume.
We'll probably get sued.
Well, who, that's just ain't how we operate, guys, so I just have a problem with that.
Well, actually, if I understand, with the Home Rule Charter Committee, when it was approved, it gave them authority to hire somebody.
That's, Mr. Chairman, that's just not so.
No.
Well, I think it gave them the ability to retain an expert. You'd have to check with your appointee, because he's the one that recommended that we get the expert.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, so Mr. Satterley.
Yeah, I'm reading from what's in our packets that's relevant to this, and therefore I understand very well comments of my colleagues, Mr. Cluot and Mr. Lambert. One of the bullet statements, I think you'll find it 1, 2, 3. If you skip the 3 subs on number 2, so that'd be 3, 4. It says the committee, the HRC Revision Committee, shall prepare a budget for all forecasted costs of this investigation and submit to the council for approval. I've never seen a budget. Amendments to the budget shall be also submitted to the council for approval. I never saw any amendments. This came about as I watched all the films, and I attended every meeting, and those that I didn't, I watched on YouTube, either live or in replay. And regardless of Mr. Lawler's comment about my destiny, whatever, that committee just brought this expert on at the end and did not seek the permission of this council to do so. Now, ABA paid for their 7 hours of testimony by their 4 or 5, quote, expert witnesses. That's not an issue here tonight, and that's fine. And whether or not we're going to wind up being sued or not, bring it on.
Well, I will say this, that there was a resolution, I don't remember if it was a resolution or a motion that they asked that we approve this contract for this independent legal advice. That was adopted at, I don't know, we didn't include that, I guess not, but that was adopted at one of those last 2 meetings.
I'm good.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, are you telling me this committee has the power of the purse strings, that they can approve their own?
They didn't adopt the contract. They asked that the council approve this contract.
I understand, but what's the answer to these bullet statements? It says that they shall prepare a budget and get council approval, it says, as well as if they do
Well,
the
that's
amendments.
where we are right now. So they submitted this $15,000, and they're asked for approval.
Okay.
We have a motion? I motioned.
We have a,
After the fact.
Seconded earlier.
Yeah, we have a
yeah,
motion and a
motion
second.
and a second. Further discussion?
Object.
Well, if I may, I'm all for getting these guys the information and the experts they need to vet whatever it is they're trying to do, but there is a process and procedure to go through, and making sure that, before the guy's brought in, I understand maybe interviewing him or doing some stuff, but if he's already doing work, the perception on it is that we've already done some kind of agreement with the guy. And it's a consistent thing that's been happening, in my opinion, over the last month or so, of putting the cart before the horse. And
this is ridiculous.
It's got to stop. I mean, I'm all for this, and that's one of the things we talked about prior to this thing, was getting the experts we need to bring them in here to get the experts there that can give that committee the information that they need to do the job thoroughly and effectively. But it's not being done in the proper order, in my opinion.
Okay, so we have, any further discussion? We have, Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, I'm almost like Benny right now on the procedures. I mean, we handle, when the parish president does something like this here and he bring up a contract and he say he already done it, we always say that's after the fact. We all jump up at it. I agree. He did do it after the fact. Well, basically, we already hired somebody and we didn't have the budget, we didn't have no money, and I mean, that is a problem. That is a problem that, is good for one, not good for the other, I mean, so, we need to get our act together. That's all I'm saying. And that's just saying, that's just not right.
Mr. Lawler, no mind, we'll distract.
We got Mr. Law has some comments.
I say, will we be, if we, I guess, table this to the next meeting, will there be an issue with that?
Maybe a time issue, if.
Well, there is, because we have some, in the preparation of the final document, this person, somebody needs to review that, from the legal standpoint of the final document.
Well, legal, based on the conversation you just heard us discuss here tonight, are we in bound of a legal issue?
I don't understand the question.
Well, I mean, currently, we haven't had a budget here, but the chairman said we already hired.
No, I didn't say
No,
well, you already.
Somebody brought a guy in that was doing work.
Yeah.
On the basis of potentially getting a contract. So, I mean, are we at any kind of ethical issues or something that we may?
That's all I want to know before I make my decision.
Well, it's not an ethical issue. I mean, we've hired people after the fact, like you said, but that's happened before. So I don't think there's an ethical issue.
Who's we? We didn't hire them. The committee did.
The council has hired people and paid for people after they've done work for the parish. I'm not talking about the committee. You're free to act and approve or not approve this. It's up to you. There's no legal impediment to doing this.
Okay. So,
It's not that we don't want to approve it, it's just, we want to bring it back in a better,
I don't think you got enough time to bring this back.
no.
I don't know if it's going to get any better.
It ain't gonna get any better.
I mean, it should have been brought in from day one to help through the whole process.
He's already testified.
Well, it was brought to it was put on this agenda when the committee asked for that, which has been in between, so the committee's been meeting every week. The council meets, as you know, twice a month, so in between that period, that's when this got on the agenda. It was asked for by the Charter Review Committee, you know, prior to, I can't remember the date on that, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, sometimes between the meeting times. Okay.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, but was this not known that we were gonna need this type of an expert at the beginning of this committee? And if
Yeah,
so,
it's
why
going on.
wasn't it done ahead of time to where, because now it's in the ninth hour, we're bringing this guy in to provide expertise and draft documents whenever, as the few meetings I've seen, I mean, they've been through the charter, now we're working on the ABA stuff, and I don't know how far they are through the ABA stuff, but why wasn't he brought in at the outset to help go through the entire charter and make sure that what y'all were doing from the get-go was proper and set up correctly, even before? Now, it's got an air. I'm like, I want to approve it, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mr. Sadler.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate number 4, because it has that favorite word that I understand is legally undeniable. The committee shall prepare a budget for all forecasted costs and it shall submit it to the council for approval. It's happened after the fact. This individual has already given and rendered his expertise, which has resulted in motions by that committee appointed by us, of which 3 members of this deliberative body sit and should well know that who holds the purse strings. This is not may, this is not the must argument or may not. This shall happen. It did not happen. Thank you for listening.
Did Mr. Cluott, you have something?
Yeah, I mean, through this whole process, I'm trying to remain open-minded, and I went ahead and put one of the good citizens of District 6 on that committee to represent our district in their opinions. And I know that you're reaching a point where some of the things that are being brought up in the committee, you do need some legal opinions on it. And so the committee needs it no matter what side of the fence they're on, okay? All right, so I don't know where the committee stands. I hadn't talked to my committee member, since this came up this evening, and but I can tell you what, I don't know that you got the autonomy to kick it down the road right now, because next meeting is July 5th. I'm gonna be on vacation. I won't be here, so do you have another month?
Call for a vote.
So I don't know. We can talk about the implications of getting the cart before the horse, whatever, all that good stuff, and and we can look for our legal advice right here in front of us. But the fact is that that's already been asked, is what we're doing illegal right now. The worst could happen if this fails right now is the guy that came to the podium and gave advice to that committee ain't getting paid, right?
So I would say this, at least,
I'm open-minded to try to get to some solution, because I have somebody that's serving on that committee, and
Yeah.
I don't want to short them, all right? However, they might have 50 questions for that guy.
So at least I would think the committee would need from this day forward, the work that he has done, because there is some work in the review of the final document that, that legal aspect is critical on. So it's at the pleasure of the council here. So we have a motion and a second at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll wait to be recognized.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Lawrence.
I'd just like to add, this did come in at the last minute, the decision to obtain an expert for what we needed. This was not something that we realized we needed early on. We were doing fine without it. Then members of the council, of the Home Rule Charter Committee decided that they wanted to have somebody to come in and be an expert. We went out and found probably the very best expert that we could find, one of the most qualified people in the entire state to come and work on our behalf. They did it on the good faith of the Ascension Parish Council that they're going to come in and do hard work for us. And this is not just simply answering questions up at the podium, but when they're asked a question, they went back and they worked on it. They came back to the next meeting with the answers to the questions that were asked. Now, it is the good faith of this council that did that with a very quality attorney. I don't want to put ourselves in that position that now we have work that has to be done and we can't pay for it. I stand by my motion. It's not perfect, but this came up at the very last minute. And that was the issue, is that Councilman Sadler, as your representative, said, hey, I need an expert. And you want to go out and get one. So the chairman and the vice chairman went out, found an expert, got the very best one, and we needed him there the very next Monday. And that person was able to clear their schedule, get there the very next Monday, and was doing work for us immediately. There have been no council meetings in between then and now, so I stand by my motion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Mr. Sadley.
Mr. Chairman, to correct the record, I think a look at the films from the very beginning, and I challenge anyone to do this, will show that what the honorable councilman from District 7 just said is plainly not true. Lee Corso, not so fast. This was not, quote-unquote, last minute. You will see multiple times in those films where not just my designee, but other designees, for those councilmen that didn't choose to seat themselves, requested legal help. They even used terminology like, let's put this up on the wall, like a sticky note, and later on we'll have legal counsel let us know. And that was even before ABA, when they were vetting just a regular homeroom charter, which was the, quote, overall charge before the elephant was let out of the room. So I take obsession with, keep trying to blame my designee at the end for doing this. He tried from the very beginning, as did others, to say, hey, let's get legal people up here, expert people up here to advise us, because we're not sure on how we would want to adjust this particular item, that particular item, this other particular item in the homeroom charter. That's a fact, Jack. Anybody go back and look at the film can see that. It was not a last-minute deal. It's a last-minute deal now because the service has been performed and we have disobeyed what's in this. This is a council resolution with an attached, what do you call it to it? Not appendix, exhibit A to it that says you shall do this. Unfortunately, we did not. Now, please quit saying, because it's just wrong, that this is a last-minute thing and it has anything to do whatsoever with my designee. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have opposition?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Please open the voting machines, Madam Secretary. Okay, did everybody vote?
Yes.
Okay, please close the voting machine. Motion is adopted 5-3. Item number 14, approval of amended intergovernmental agreement between Ascension Parish Government, Ascension Parish Clerk of Court's Office, Assumption Parish Police Jury, Assumption Parish Clerk of Court, St. James Parish Government, St. James Parish Clerk of Court, and the 23rd Judicial District Attorney's Office to share the cost of a courier to pick up and deliver documents, files, etc., to all listed. Mr. Parrington.
Motion.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Kluat, second by Councilman Lawler. Discussion. Mr. Johnson.
So what are we paying a courier to do? And
To run between all the courthouses and the judges, they came to us and asked us to do this. The original agreement had the criminal court fund in lieu of Ascension Parish, Assumption Parish, and St. James Parish. However, the parishes get any leftover money in the criminal court fund, or they fund any deficits in the criminal court fund. And the problem is, the judges said there's a judicial district where the courier that was being paid out the criminal court fund got in an accident and got sued, and the criminal court fund does not have insurance, so the judges in that district are
on the hook.
Not on the hook, but they're being sued, and so they asked that we change the wording of it, since we get any excess and we got to fill up any deficit, so to keep them out of it.
This is a revision of a previously approved,
We
is that
approved it
correct?
last week, and that's the change, is that we took the criminal court fund because the judges would have to sign this and didn't want to be responsible for this.
Okay, motion, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, opposition. Hearing none, the motion's adopted. Introduction of ordinances. Number 15, introduction of ordinance to grant authority to the parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct the Roddy Road corridor safety widening.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Lawler, introduced by Mr. Lawler. Item number 16.
Mr.
No,
Chairman,
you
got to
gotta
abstain on that.
Oh, you're gonna.
But it only
abstain.
takes a
Well, it
motion.
just takes one council member to introduce.
Okay, but I
So
still
we're not
need to
gonna vote.
abstain.
Okay. Introduction of ordinance to grant authority to the parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct the Henry Road safety widening.
Motion.
Got a introduction by Councilman Johnson. Item number 17, introduction of ordinance to grant parish president authority to acquire right-of-way to construct the PR 929 at Parker Road roundabout.
Motion.
Got a motion by, or an introduction by Councilman Johnson. Item number 18, introduction of ordinance to grant authority to parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct Seabro Road
Motion.
safety widening.
Motion.
Introduction by Councilman Todd Lambert. 19, introduction of ordinance to grant authority to parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct the LA 73 turn lanes.
Motion.
Was it Councilman Lambert? Item number 20, introduction of ordinance to grant authority to parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct US 61 at Germany Road intersection.
Motion.
Motion by introduction by Councilman Lambert. Introduction of ordinance to grant authority to parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct PR 929 at Bro Road roundabout.
Motion.
Introduction by Councilman Lawler. Item 22, introduction of ordinance to grant authority to parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct LA 930 at Henry Road roundabout. Introduction by Councilman Lawler. Item 23, introduction of ordinance to grant authority to the parish president to acquire right-of-way to construct the PR 929 LA 930 roundabout.
Motion.
Councilman Johnson, introduction by Councilman Johnson. Item number 24, introduction to grant authorization of parish president to acquire the right-of-way to construct the Bro Road at Germany Road roundabout. Introduction by Councilman Todd Lambert. Public hearings, ordinances. Reading of ordinance to revoke an existing 47-foot drainage servitude located across the southeast corner of tracks A-2-B-2-A-2 and A-2-B-2-B, and the reduction of an existing 62-foot drainage servitude to 30 feet along the southern portion of the eastern property line of tract A-2-B-2-B of the former V. Price LeBlanc property along LA Highway 30. Mr. Parrington.
Yes, to revoke an existing 47-foot drainage servitude located across the southeast corner of tracks A2, B2, A2, and A2, B2B, and the reduction of existing 62-foot drainage servitude to 30 feet along the southern portion of the eastern property line of tract A2, B2B, the former V. Price LeBlanc property along Highway 30. Property is depicted on the boundary survey map of tracks A2, B2, A2, and A2B2B by Cletus Langlois dated January 25th, 2018. Where the petitioner has petitioned the Ascension Parish Council to revoke the existing 47-foot drainage servitude located across the southeast corner of tract A2B2A2 and A2B2B, and the reduction of an existing 60-foot drainage servitude to 30 feet along the southern portion of the eastern property line of tract A2B2B of the former V. Price LeBlanc property along Highway 30. Property is depicted on the boundary survey maps, tracks A2B2, A2, and A2B2, A2B2B by Cletus Langlois dated January 25th, 2018. Whereas the Planning Department and Engineering Department have reviewed and researched said request and have no objection to the revocation.
Go ahead.
The Parish of Ascension hereby ordains that it grants an approval of revocation existing 47-foot drainage servitude located across the southeast corner of tract A2B2, A2, and A2B2B, and the reduction of existing 62-foot drainage servitude to 30 feet along the southern portion of the eastern property line of tract A2B2B of the former V. Price LeBlanc property along Louisiana Highway 30. Property is depicted on the boundary map survey of tracts A2B2, A2, and A2B2B by the Cletus Langlois dated January 25th, 2018, attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit A. All ordinances and other parts of ordinance in conflict herewith are hereby and henceforth repealed. If any provision of the ordinance is held invalid, such validity should not affect other provisions herein which can be given effect without the invalid provisions. This effect, the provisions of the ordinance are hereby declared to be severable. The effective date of the ordinance shall be 15 days after adoption. The ordinance have been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing.
Got a motion by
Motion to close public hearing.
Got a motion by Councilman Cluett to open the public hearing. Any opposition? Got a motion by Councilman Lawler to close the public hearing. Any opposition? Public hearing is closed. ordinance to revoke, got a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert to move the ordinance.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kluat. Discussion, opposition. Ordinance is adopted. Item number 28, reading of the ordinance to amend Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-405I, Preliminary Plat Procedure. Mr. Parrington.
To amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-405I, Preliminary Plat Procedure. Whereas Ascension Parish's local government subdivision is defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution, 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body of the zoning and regulations within its jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Unified Land Development Code of the Ascension Parish, Louisiana, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4051, Preliminary Plat Procedure, is amended as more fully described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portions shall be deemed separate, distinct, and the provisions shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. The effective date of the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Public hearing. Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert to open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. We have one speaker on this item, Mr. Jeff Pettit. Thank you very much. All right, a motion to close the public hearing, Councilman Todd Lambert. Opposition, second by Mr. Satterley. Public hearing is closed. Ordinance.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Todd Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Aaron Lawler to move the ordinance. Discussion. Opposition. Ordinance is adopted. Item number 31, reading of the ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 2, Development Code, Section 17-2090, Administration and Enforcement E, Application Requirements for Development Permits. Mr. Parrington.
To amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 2, Development Code, Section 17-2090, Administration and Enforcement E, Application Requirements for Development Permits. Ascension Parish is a local government. Subdivision is defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution, 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body over zoning regulations within the jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish in. Now therefore be it ordained the Ascension Parish governing authority of the Unified Land Development Code, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, Appendix 2, Development Code, Section 17-2090, Preliminary Plat Procedure, Application Requirements for Preliminary Permits is hereby amended with the addition to G of Section 1729, Preliminary Plat Procedure is more fully described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of the ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions that have not affected the validity of the remaining portion of the ordinance. The ordinance shall be in full effect as submitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Public hearing.
Motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Johnson. Public hearing is open.
Motion to close.
We got a motion by Councilman Kluat, second by Councilman Lambert. No, we don't have any speakers on
Good
that.
deal. Motion closed.
Public hearing is closed. Got a motion by Councilman Benny Johnson to move the ordinance. Got a second by Councilman Lawler. Any discussion, any opposition? Ordinance is adopted. Item number 34. Motion by Councilman Dempsey Lambert, second by Mr. Satterley. Any opposition? Adjourned.